But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
Listen to all this,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with Buddy.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9.
Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 276. Men aren't romantic? Patriarchy! I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with nonsense annihilator Lauren Brooks and the personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson, and tonight we're going to learn how it's men's fault that women have made dating a minefield of ever-changing social faux pas with legal consequences. But before we get into that, we gotta do what we gotta do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. Now, for decades, feminists have spent decades demanding that men learn to leave women alone, right? Don't chase us, don't flirt with us, don't ask us out, don't say hi to us on the street.
Oh my God, don't tell me to smile.
Yeah, oh no, God forbid you say smile. Under any circumstance, because it's exactly the same as if you were doing something mean or bad and you suggested she smile, right? But now that men are leaving women alone, now that men are not romantic, now that men are not doing all that patriarchal shit, women are complaining that that's also patriarchal. Is there anything that feminists will not blame on the patriarchy?
No, because anything a man does is inherently patriarchal because he's a man.
Yeah,
and
I swear, patriarchy is just feminists for men doing things.
Yeah. It's the fucking scarlet letter.
Everything is patriarchy except feminism.
Right.
It's like you could take that song the kids liked from the Lego movie, the one Lego movie, Everything is Awesome, and turn it into Everything is Patriarchy, and it would be accurate.
God, I wish that actually fit like the syllables.
Like, yeah, you just say it really fast. That's it. But I mean, if their chewing gum loses its flavor on the bedpost overnight, patriarchy, obviously, right?
He thinks men's fault in some kind of way.
If the moon hits your eye like a big piece of pizza pie, that's patriarchy. Oh my God. If you're happy and you know it, that's patriarchy. Oh shit. I'm just gonna keep going with stupid song lyrics from now on. The rest of the show is just gonna be oh.
This is gonna be fun.
That's really awful. But and before we get into the actual article, I just want to point out, I looked up romance is patriarchy on Google. And there's a shit ton of articles of how romantic love is a tool of patriarchy. Romantic love is a patriarchal ploy. Romance isn't dead. It's just patriarchal. Patriarchal romantic love is a scam. And there's research. The romance of patriarchy, ideology, subjectivity, and some other thing that's not included because the title is always really long in these feminist research papers. Patriarchy in your love life. For the construction of patriarchy, love, obligation, and ... and it just keeps going and going. A study of how patriarchy, power, and abuse in probably romantic relationships, it just, and that's feminism right there. So romance is patriarchy, guys, and there's a shit ton of writing to prove that romance is patriarchy, and it's a scam against women.
Funnily enough, romance is named after the Romans.
Yeah.
They didn't. They certainly didn't invent patriarchy. They kind of stole ideas from ancient Greece, as the joke goes. The Greeks invented sex, and the Romans invented having it with women, which has to be patriarchal, surely.
Oh, that's great.
I've never heard that before. That's great.
That's fabulous. So I just want to point out, first of all, the article is old. It's from February, but that's, I hadn't seen it before until Richard pointed it out to me, and I saw it, and I was just like, oh God, we got to talk about this. This is bullshit.
Yeah,
but,
it's 6 months really is nothing. That might have been,
Right.
might as well have been like last week, because of everything that's in the news cycle. Of course, all of these things get shuffled off to the side, which is why it's 6 months old, and we're just getting around to it. So
The best part of this, though, is the section of the Guardian, which is a mainstream establishment media outlet, right? The section of the Guardian that this is in, the week in patriarchy.
I just can't believe this is an actual section. I wonder if of course they do post every week. These people have nothing to do but whinge and complain. That would be a great thing to just touch on once a week and say, hey, what stupid shit is the Guardian putting out now?
Well, and I looked at it, and it's bizarre. Why are so many powerful men, or do so many powerful men seem to be allergic to apologies? Trump is turning his mugshot into a badge of honor, but will voters see it that way? Yes, actually we do.
Yes.
In excluding trans women and women's chess makes you a pawn of the patriarchy. As kidfluencers come of age, we need to consider the consequences of viral fame. So kidfluencers are experiencing what Hollywood kids did in Generation X. There's another Giuliani, an article about Giuliani. There's an article about the U.S. Congress. This is a British publication, right? U.S. Congress. We have. Let's see, want to quickly spot idiots. This is the week in patriarchy again. Quickly spot idiots, 5 foolproof red flags. The Republican obsession with Hunter Biden. Again, this is a British publication. Mike Pence, Trump. Elon Musk, and
Oh, no.
they're mad because 2 guys postured about getting into a fight that never happened.
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez. And they're mad because he's not paying taxes. So how about a competition to pay the most tax? Well, I think Musk wins that one because oh shoot, I can't think of her name. Occasional Cortex. What's her real name?
Alexandria.
Yes, Alexandria Occasional Cortex. I can't remember her real name. That's so sad.
We all knew exactly who you meant.
I was
Might as well
talking-
just call her Occasional Cortex.
Yes, the village idiot of Washington D.C. had a fit about Musk and his taxes, and he told her how much he paid in taxes, and it was an immense amount. So like he pretty much owned her on that one. But there we go. So there is.
Did she shut up afterwards?
No.
Or did she keep fucking going? Like,
Does she ever shut up?
No.
She's worse
And
than me.
I find it really, really fucking funny that this bitch is complaining about the amount of taxes that a private individual is paying, whereas her salary is paid by the average fucking taxpayer.
Right.
So shut your mouth, you
Well, and-
hypocritical cunt.
She wants people like me and most men, breadwinners, home, of their families, people whose income is not going to support children or is going to support their whole household, and they're getting taxed out the wazoo because they don't have a lot of other deductions, right, to pay for her college tuition.
Right.
What she makes is so much higher than what I make. And I think, not this in particular, but the other thing that I do for a living is probably more important than what she does.
It's definitely more important.
I take care of people.
I'm guessing she pays a lot less taxes than you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, she probably does. She probably does.
Everyone is in competition to pay the least taxes. Is there anyone out there who goes, I love paying taxes.
Right.
I want to pay more taxes than anyone.
Yes, I'm not going to make deductions because I want to pay more money than I actually owe the government based on the rules set by Congress, of which she is a part.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like that when Matt Watton says, I call her Clueless Vortex. That's fabulous. Oh. So we're going to get into the article. So while we're making fun of feminists and feminist logic and all this, I just had to point out they have, in an establishment media, they have the Week in Patriarchy, which I don't know if that started before or after This Week in Stupid. Sargon's This Week in Stupid. But I want to say probably they're copying. But in any case... So here we go. They have this feminists that have no power and no influence have this influential mouthpiece here. And what are they gonna talk about? Why have young men fallen out of love with romantic relationships? By, of course, Arwa Mahdawi. And like some of the most annoying things that we've had to read have been written by Arwa Mahdawi.
She's pretty infuriating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize her face, but only from her various hot takes on The Guardian.
Yeah,
I forget what they all are, but...
Well,
yeah.
we just read some of them. Like, a lot of these articles are written by her. She says, why are so many young men single? Sex, numerous studies show, is going out of fashion. So
well, it's
people
not the
don't
same as romance.
people don't like sex. Yeah, she jumped really far there. Sex and romance don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. Just ask a hooker. Young people aren't shagging much anymore, a phenomenon that has been widely blamed on technology and online porn. Because, of course, it has absolutely nothing to do with false rape allegations, being told not to ask women out, being told not to even approach or speak to women unless they already know they have permission, which you can't get without asking, but you're not allowed to ask. It has nothing to do with that.
I guess you have to ask her father.
It's
which isn't at all regressive or patriarchal.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's that, but then look at what women's standards are. Men would shy away from trying to get with a woman if he didn't feel that he measured up. Women it's the 6'6". They want a 6-foot tall man with at least a 6-inch penis and at least a 6-figure income. Okay, and men know, because women they are not shy about making it known, right?
No, they're not. They'll an interviewer can ask and they'll just tell them, like,
yes.
right out. If I was that shallow, I wouldn't admit that to anybody.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, I mean, I guess it's not really a phenomenon. I just was really thrown off by the fact that there's a term for it. And they call it a foodie call.
Yeah.
Not a booty call.
I know this
call.
one.
It's when a chick, she doesn't really care about you. She just wants to call you up so you can take her out and feed her.
There are women who basically their whole food budget is dating guys that they meet on Tinder and then ghosting them.
Yeah.
And there's that, and then there's the issue of like women will get mad if you expect a relationship after you've demonstrated that you're interested in a relationship and they've reciprocated your interest, and then you want them to be loyal and you're loyal to them, you want them to be loyal. They'll be like, we didn't talk about this. But if you're not loyal, if you go out with another girl, you should have known you were in a relationship. Right? So it's one social faux pas after another. You're supposed to read their minds. You're supposed to understand what they're thinking. You're supposed to know when they've decided you're in a relationship. You're supposed to know, when they've decided you're not in a relationship. You're supposed to know when they want you to approach. You're supposed to know when they don't want you to approach. Like, you're supposed to be psychic. It's a requirement. if you're not psychic, then they're going to call the cops, or they're going to post your information. And then there are websites with, like, they get mad about things like revenge porn, but they will dox men, like their addresses, phone numbers, and everything, on a site called Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Mm-hmm.
And that information, once they put that information on the internet, it's out there. Doesn't matter if, guilty or innocent. No, you've just told scammers this guy's personal identifying information. Great. Like that, and a lot of times there's guys that have a lot of similarities that are not the same guy, that get treated like they're the same guy because they've been put on this website. Then they've got ihollowback.com, which is creepypasta for feminists that fantasize about being hit on too much.
Oh God.
And I've seen a lot of stories on there. The worst one was some guy sat next to a girl on the bus, and in her mind they were harassing her by being in the seats close to where she was sitting on the bus.
Wow.
And then they wonder why romance is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not even sexual. That's a small child could, sit next to another small child in an attempt to get to know. Even children understand romance, but you can't. The initial approach is not even a sexual thing; it's a romantic thing. And from square one, men are told, "Get the fuck out of my personal space." Something. Me too.
Yep, pretty much. But why aren't men hitting on us? Why aren't men asking us out? Why aren't they paying for dinner? Why aren't they romancing us? Oh, and by the way, sex.
Right.
She goes on, it's not just sexual activity that's declining. Young men in the U.S. appear to have fallen out of love with romantic relationships. A recent Pew Research study has found that 63% of men under 30 describe themselves as single, compared with 34% of women in the same age bracket.
Well, describing yourself as single could just mean you're not married, couldn't it?
It could.
Yeah, that's the normal state of being, is not married. Like we it's not normal you don't come into the world married. You are a single until you choose to marry. But it's like we treat it as like being married is the default.
Yeah.
And being single is like, oh my God, what's wrong with you?
So yeah, I just want to repeat this though. 63% of men under 30 describe themselves as single, compared with 34% of women in the same age bracket. So there are more women, slightly more women than men. I don't know if in the under 30 age bracket that's true. I know some of that difference has to do with the fact that men die younger than women. But I think more girls are born as well. So we're talking a demographic that is larger, has a much smaller, like 34% of women describe themselves as single. So 66% describe themselves. 76%. No, it's 66% describe themselves as not single.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which, like, that's barely more than the men that describe themselves as single. As the number of women that describe themselves as not single. So there's a couple things that have to be going there.
There could be some polygamy going on there.
Yeah, some of them are in. Some of them are dating the same guy. Some of them know it. Some of them might not, but some of them are dating the same guy, and they consider it a relationship. And then the other thing is, obviously, there is lesbianism, and lesbians may be more like, well, we went out on a date, we're committed now. But I have a feeling that a portion of that percentage is accounted for by girls and women who have gone out on a date with a guy and decided they are in a relationship, but no discussion had taken place. And so he's asked him out, gone, and of course I've seen articles, blog posts really. My boyfriend ghosted me after one date. You only went on one date. How the fuck is he your boyfriend?
Right. Women have proven time and time again, okay, that they do not know how to vet men. They just go off of impulse.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, he's high. Oh, he's driving this flashy car. Oh, he looks like he's got money. I gotta have him. Okay. Well, you're not the only one. So, go ahead.
I want to see the percentage of people who say it's complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Famous option on Facebook. Really, 100% of people should say it's complicated, because it always is.
Yes.
Yeah, her relationships take work to keep them, like, even your friendships are like that, though. I mean, if you don't maintain your sense of companionship and your closeness to your friends, you drift apart and you quit hanging out with each other. It just really sucks when that happens with somebody that you love and you live with and so on. But the other thing that I will bet with a lot of these women is because it's under 30, so we're talking, that includes the out of college but not yet 30 set, so 20, 24, 23, 24 on up to 30. And when you get into the like 25, 26, 27, they may be dating guys that are over 30 because they have money. And so you get the gold digger set in there too. So women have various reasons why they might say they're not single, or not be single, that maybe are not as applicable to young men who have figured out that dating and relationships can get them into big trouble. So she writes, cue a lot of dramatic headlines about, as The Hill put it, The Hill being, I think, The Hill's Capital blog. She didn't link to it. The larger breakdown in the social, romantic, and sexual life of the American male. Imagine The Hill is referring to heterosexual American male here, but Pew also looked at people who identified as LGB and found that 62% of LGB men report being single compared to 37% of LGB women. So even gay men are not getting into romantic relationships. They're not settling down. Which
I go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of what our society does in regard to marriage is take a man and make him responsible for his partner financially and kind of morally. So perhaps gay men don't necessarily, as under 30 especially, don't necessarily want to do that. That's it. That's all I was going to say. Lauren, were you going to speak on that?
I was just going to make a snide comment. Well, not really snide commentary. Just point out the fact that they kind of left off a few letters off of that LGB.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
I wonder why.
Not alphabet soup.
Yes, because that's what it is. We are men and women. We are either straight or gay, or bi, and that's it.
Yep. So, before we delve into the sexual life of the American male, which, every feminist woman writer should do because men just love that, I'd just like to point out that the Pew Research study was actually conducted last summer, but they republished the findings in a Valentine's Day listicle. Oh, why not? I mean, BuzzFeed got famous for their listicles, right? And then they got taken seriously by Congress, so, I mean...
I should point out, none of this takes into account those of us in the none of your damn business sexual contingent of society. The people who don't fill in your forms, the people who you don't get any information from, because they don't want you to know about their sex life.
Right.
Quite a lot of people don't want you probing into these details of their lives, so you don't know about them because they don't tell you.
Yeah, when you see the Pride Parade and the group of people that's out there showing off their kinks as something to be specifically have feelings about in regard to the public. I am proud of this. It's not just something I do, right? That's a tiny percentage of the people in the country. It's a tiny percentage of the non-straight people in the country. Like, there's a whole lot of people that really don't want anything to do with that. But in any case, yeah. So there we go. A listicle. This caught the attention of someone at The Hill. Oh, they finally linked to it, and it is thehill.com, not The Hill's Capital blog. So this is a different publication than I was thinking of. The Hill's Capital blog is usually about American politics and American legislative issues, but not always. I mean, because it's basically about Congress and the president and what they are doing, the Supreme Court and what they are doing, and how it's affecting Americans and how American public opinion affects it, and so on. But The Hill wrote an article headline, "Most young men are single, most young women are not." A screenshot of that article then went viral because, well, those numbers don't really make much sense, do they? Unlike China and India, where men outnumber women by 70 million, there are about the same number of men and women in the U.S. Who are all the young women dating? Pete Davidson? West Elm Caleb?
No idea who that is.
I don't either, but they linked to something. I'm afraid to look.
I would. What's your definition of young men and young women? Because obviously, women would date men who are older than them, who are more established, right? Because that's hypergamy in action.
Yeah,
it kind of makes sense if you think about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm off here, but
well, like I said, I do have a suspicion that a significant portion of them are girls who think they're in a relationship with guys who don't, and
right.
Another significant portion is girls who are in relationships with men who are older than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I say girls because it's really hard for me to define Zoomers as women. I haven't talked to very many who measure up. So
yeah.
But I mean, some do. I will say that I have met some that do. She goes on, nobody seems entirely sure what the reason for this giant relationship gap is, but the most popular theory is that young women are more likely to be dating older men. Another rather overblown theory is that the gay agenda is working, and considering 1/5 of Gen Z identifies as queer, all the young women are dating each other. Yeah, that's possible, but I don't know that they're necessarily all in committed relationships either.
Right.
I mean,
and that's not all of them. 1/5. Holy shit, lady.
That's 20%.
Right.
They would all have to be in relationships with each other to make up a significant portion of the percentage of females that identify as in a relationship. So
yeah, I'm not sure where she's or who's stating this theory about the quote unquote gay agenda. I mean,
activists
again,
probably.
it just doesn't seem to measure up to scrutiny.
Well, and see, the other thing is, in my experience, there are lesbians that are in committed relationships that it's a whole life relationship like any other married couple, and that's a small percentage, a small group. And then there are a shit ton of young women that experiment with lesbianism, especially after a few drinks, and party with each other and treat it as an opportunity to have as much sex as humanly possible without getting pregnant, and without having to deal with men in their body hair and all that stuff, right? Like, there's a song about that. I wish I was a lesbian, and it's funny because It's the idea of what a woman thinks when she's straight and she wishes she was a lesbian so she wouldn't have to put up with men. Like, everything about men is bad, and these are all the things I hate, and they're all petty complaints, which is pretty par for the course, right? But yeah, just because a lot of Gen Z identifies as queer, or even if they all identified as gay, it wouldn't necessarily mean they were committed to each other in relationships.
Yeah, being in a committed relationship could include a committed relationship with your dog.
Yeah, there is that.
Which a lot of people, again, is this disparity between who considers what commitment. Your dog is not committed to you in the same way you're committed to your dog. Your dog will escape as soon as you leave the fucking door open. And it's much the same with the man you think you're in a relationship with.
Well, and the other thing that's going on with a lot of Gen Z is polyamory is much more popular with Gen Z than it was with Gen X. And obviously there are Gen Zs, male and female, that grew up in a household with polyamorous parents, or their older siblings, their millennial siblings, were into it and had relationships that they thought looked interesting, so they're doing it now. And I've seen a few successful relationships and a few chaotic disasters in regard to that. So there's probably going to be a small contingent of people that are just wired different from normal people that come out of that with long-standing relationships, and a shit ton of Gen Z kids dealing with trauma from trying something that is unnatural to them because they were told at their school that anybody can do this and it's for everybody and you should try it. And they did, and now they're psychologically wounded by the breakup and the ensuing disaster after that. When you have a breakup with a woman, you get drama. When you have a breakup with two women, you get double the drama. And when you have a breakup with three women, it starts to become exponentially dramatic. And so there are, in the lesbian community, in the younger side of the lesbian community, there are polyamorous relationships that are 3-way, 4-way. The biggest one I've seen is 5-way. And it didn't last.
I'm sorry, that's too many personalities to have to fucking keep, in touch with.
Well, at some point it stops being a committed relationship and starts just being a long-term orgy. But just a thought. You can spell that any way you like. She writes, another issue potentially feeding into the data discrepancy is the fact that there could be gendered differences in how people define a committed relationship. The Pew definition of single is those who are not married, living with a partner, or in a committed relationship. Well, yeah, women can say, well, if I'm not dating anybody else, we're in a committed relationship. You should know that. And men are like, but you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Men have problems with commitment, you see. No, you're just a fucking psycho bitch.
Mm-hmm. And then if she finds somebody she wants to cheat with, it's, well, but we didn't say we were in a committed relationship. I would have yelled at you if you cheated, but I should be free to do so because you didn't tell me we were in a committed relationship. You aren't paying any of my bills. Right? That's committed relationship to a lot of women. Oh, he's paying my bills. We're in a committed relationship. Unless it's a sugar daddy thing. While we may never solve the mystery behind the relationship gap, there's been a lot of hand-wringing about these numbers, mainly from conservative circles, who take it as evidence that feminism in the modern world, particularly porn, has emasculated young men. Like, nobody's considering the fact that telling young men to fuck off will eventually result in young men fucking off.
Right.
Especially if you spend 20 years screaming it. No, and
it's like they Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's like these feminists. They found the magic lamp. They rubbed it, right. The genie came out, and they granted these bitches their 3 magic wishes, and it's still not good enough.
It's not a magic lamp. Is that a lamp in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Yeah, no, they get their wish, they get mad. They don't get their wish, they get mad. There you go. So she goes on. Seth Dillon, for example, the founder of the conservative satire site, the Babylon Bee, tweeted, "Young women are dating each other or older men in record numbers. As a result, 60% of young men are single and lonely. It's probably hard to overstate how serious this problem is." So I want to point something else out here. Like, they keep mentioning porn, and like, do they think that prior to, well, I don't think there's such a thing as prior to the existence of porn. The first art ever created was porn. But prior to the widespread, cheap availability of porn on the internet, men just had no entertainment of any kind. Like, there was football, before that, when television didn't exist, there were radio shows, there were, when television did exist, all kinds of TV shows, guys, like, there were movies, there were books, my grandfather would go on hunting trips, and he would be gone for a whole weekend, sometimes as much as a week, and come back with, he'd come back with food. It was a purposeful trip, but it was still entertainment. My dad entertained himself by creating art with a camera. Actually, he entertained himself by having 4 jobs. And, everybody thinks I'm a workaholic, but I get it, honestly. But yeah, men have always found ways to entertain themselves, and a bunch of those ways involve doing things to improve society, provide entertainment for people around them, create new ways to be comfortable and safe, and get places more quickly and more conveniently, and again, more comfortably and safely. Competitions that are entertaining for everybody. I don't understand how all of a sudden having ways that men can be entertained today make them unavailable to women. Senior Sticks wants to know if we got our silver play button. I will have to ask Allison. We probably didn't.
Don't you need 100,000 subs for a silver play button?
I don't know. I don't think we have 100,000 subs, though. I think we have like 50,000.
And we never will.
No, we probably never will.
Karen has been eligible for a silver play button since years ago, and I think she applied, but they never got back to her.
Yeah. No, we don't want to give that to you.
Yeah. For all the shit conservatives say about YouTube, about how much YouTube hates them, they hate MRAs more than anything.
Yeah.
Karen's the only MRA who ever got to 100,000, and that's because it was way back in the day before they changed the algorithm and blacklisted certain people.
Well, and they didn't know until it was too late, because she kind of flew in out of nowhere. They weren't looking for a woman to be saying the things on YouTube that Karen said on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and Honey Badger Radio is losing subscribers at a flat rate and per upload. My channel is losing subs at a flat rate plus an extra few per upload. I think Badger live streams is still in the green, but it's only like single figures per month, until the algorithm, until someone at YouTube discovers that we're doing too well as well, and then they put the kibosh on this channel as well. They're not going to let us get to 100,000. If YouTube doesn't like you, they will flip some numbers around to make sure that you never reach any numbers they don't want you to reach.
Yeah, definitely. That's not going to be allowed. So we probably will never get a silver play button or any other type of kudos, from. In fact, they're more likely to shut us down or put strikes on our channel for things that other people are allowed to say. So,
so if YouTube does let you get a six-figure sub count, it's because they're letting you get that sub count. So
right.
Sorry, but you are controlled opposition.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. So, but going back to the point about porn, and really the video games too, because they mentioned video games. Like these are pastimes that games in general have been around forever. There are games going back. There was a game that was unearthed a while back that was thousands of years old that it was similar, if I remember right, to like backgammon or something like that. That I saw a news article about. We're talking a Stone Age game. So games are not something new. Games don't keep men away from women. At least not games that you play with each other for competition. It might have been, I can't remember, Senior Sticks, the name, what it was called. It might have been it. But it did have a short name like that. And then, like I said, porn has existed since people could create art. Like some of the first art ever created was images of people having sex and nude images. So there's literally no excuse to claim that the existence of porn is what's keeping men from being close to women. I know tradcons a lot of times will blame stuff like that, and particularly tradcon women, like, oh, these sins are available, these, and they'll think of men having a pastime as a sin, right? Because they're not working, they're not doing things for their family. They can have a pastime, but men can't, right? And their pastimes don't have to be things like sewing and needlework that women used to do for their families. They can be reading a romance novel, which is women's porn, right? It can involve doing puzzle books and being on social media, which are women's games. They're games that are really directed at women. That's probably one of the most feminine things I do. I like puzzle books. I particularly like the ones where you have the puzzle that gives you a set of people and a set of details about those people, and you have to match them up through clues. Or cryptograms, right? Those are, I don't see a lot of guys doing that. But if I'm stuck at a doctor's office or something and I don't want to get on their Wi-Fi and play time waster games, I take one of those books with me. So, like, those are things that women have had available forever, right? And it doesn't keep women from expecting romance from men. So this is bullshit, and honestly, conservatives need to stop doing that and start looking at how women are treating men, because y'all value relationships. At least you value relationships. I cannot say that about feminists. I cannot say that about the woke left, right? The more libertarian left maybe, but not the woke left. Can't really always say that about progressives. And really, you can't always say that about communists. In fact, some communists feel that family relationships are an affront to the communist society. So that's a widespread belief, actually, among communists. So this idea that it's men's fault for entertaining themselves, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the way women treat men. Like, conservatives need to dump that, because you're really the only chance at perpetuating male-female relationships at all. You still have some respect for them, but you're going to lose them if you don't fix that problem.
Yeah.
So, Seth Dillon saying young women are dating each other or older men in record numbers. As a result, 60% of young men are single and lonely. It's not just women dating older men, although hypergamy and expecting a guy to have money does contribute to that. Is that true, though, she writes? I'm not denying that there's a serious and worrying epidemic of loneliness among young American men, but you don't need to be in a relationship to be happy. I think that rather than focusing on young men being single, the real problem is the fact that young men don't have friends. Which I think we debunked this article a while back. Men don't... They defined this wrong. Here's where it's only 21% of men, for example, said they had received emotional support from a friend in the past week, compared to 41% of women, according to a 2021 survey. I think we looked at that survey, and they defined emotional support to exclude things like working shoulder to shoulder on a project together. And only include things like talking about your problems and getting feedback. If it becomes about the nail, they don't consider it support.
Yeah.
So that's bullshit.
I just don't see how that's a deficiency. To me, that sounds like women are more interdependent on their friends for emotional support. That sounds like someone who needs people, like someone who is more content with their life doesn't necessarily need to reach out to, like, even if they have problems, they don't necessarily need to talk to someone or get a confirmation or an affirmation or a pat on the back or to be happy. Women need that. Women absolutely need that. They need that support system. They need that "you go, girl." So just because there's a disparity in between the numbers doesn't mean that men are like that they don't have friends or somehow. I don't understand what they're trying to say here.
Well, it drives me nuts. Like, two men will sit in a boat for like 12 hours, or 14 hours from before the sun comes up until after it goes down. Mm-hmm. And they don't necessarily have to catch fish, but they'll sit in a boat with their fishing poles in the water, drinking beer or pop or whatever they took with them, depending on whether they drink or not, and eating sandwiches that were pre-packed and stuff, beef jerky. Mm-hmm. And not say two words to each other that whole 12 hours. And they will have camaraderie, mm-hmm. companionship, and the intimacy of friendship through that whole thing.
Right.
And, they'll have moments of excitement if they catch a fish. Mm-hmm. And, that's it. And that can be a way that men comfort each other as well. And, like, that's... men will play video games together. They'll play video games for, again, 12 hours with a guy who lives across town. My husband and my son-in-law play a game together all the time. Like, they have a very close relationship. And a lot of it is them interacting together in this game where they're doing in-game tasks together and getting in-game achievements together. I mean, they do a lot of other things. He has my son-in-law has a smoker, so we've greatly encouraged him to use that. It's quite. He's got a talent for it. We'll just say that he's really good at creating rather delicious smoked meats. So they do that. They do a lot of stuff together, but there's a lot of stuff they do that's not necessarily in person. And they don't have to sit there and chatter at each other.
Right.
Women will be in a room together for the same amount of time, and there will not be 10 seconds of silence to put together in that room. The whole 12 hours.
I have to tell you, that gives me so much anxiety. I can't stand it. I really can't. I love solitude. I'd like to don't like to talk. I don't like to talk endlessly. You know what I mean? I'm not always talking about my fucking feelings. That's why I love Mike, because we're the same way. Like, we just don't. There's no such thing as uncomfortable silence. We're just in the same space, and the time doesn't have to be filled with fucking words. But that's how women operate. They can't shut up. They can't shut off. They can't just be in the moment. Right?
It's even long been understood that the way men have conversations and the way women have conversations is very different.
Yes.
Men take turns. Like when one is finished talking, the other starts talking. Whereas women, to put it nicely, it's more of a jam session. One starts talking before the others even finish, because they're all so desperate to say things, which makes it supremely ironic that the idea of man-terruption is a thing. Woman-terruption is not a thing. Women talk by interrupting each other.
Yes.
And if you've ever tried to have a conversation with a feminist woman who disagrees with you, good fucking luck getting through a sentence.
Oh my god, it's why I like Twitter. They do have to at least respond to one post at a time, and not, and they can't necessarily. It's harder, at least, for them to gish gallop, and even if they do, you can respond to each thing. But it's so when you talk about men and women having friends, what men might define as a friendship might look completely alien to most women. So who designs the survey, and who determines what constitutes friendship activities, friendship behaviors, friendship attitudes, right? Like, it's unfair to say that men do not have friends if you're judging them by the standards of female friendship attitudes, behaviors, and activities.
Exactly. I was just gonna say, this is just another example of them viewing men as defective women.
Right. And of course, the explanation we get is insufficient as well. Why is that? Well, The Hill quotes Richard Reeves, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and the author of the book of Boys and Men, sorry, who explains that men are just naturally, less naturally relational than women. But are they?
It's not true.
Like, if shit needs done, they'll get together.
Oh, God.
I had two reactions from my local friends, from people that I knew, when I talked about the problems dealing with my parents' estate. Women were very sorry for what I was going through. Most of the women I know were very compassionate about it and said, if there's anything I can do, let me know. Guys came over and helped us move stuff. Guys I didn't even know before my parents died, but that knew my family, came over and helped us move stuff. Like, the older brother of one of my classmates sought me out to come over and help because he knew my parents. I would say those are two very different ways of expressing friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are right. They're both, one said, ask for what you need and I will help you with it. And the other observed what the apparent needs were and began helping. And both are right. It's always good to say, hey, ask and I'll do whatever you need. And it's also good to just pick up a shovel when you see that there's a mess. But this group only acknowledges one of those things. I would say that's pretty relational, stepping in to help.
Absolutely.
But go on.
I mean, it's just, because it's giving of yourself instead of giving to expect something in return.
Yeah.
And that's how women are. You know what I mean? They will do something for you because they feel like they're going to get something back from it. Men just do because it's something that needs to be done. And it's very much like also like a Southern traditional core value, right? Like you help your neighbor.
Yeah.
Especially when you live in a small town, you know, if you know everybody, you can't be a dick to somebody in a town with only a few hundred people, because everybody's going to know that, oh my God, this guy was an asshole. Because,
yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So, yes, it's...
Yeah, we had in that community, we had a lady who lived in a cul-de-sac, right? She lived on the stem of the cul-de-sac, and there was a guy that lived in the flower part of the cul-de-sac, you know, the petals being the houses. They always just look like a daisy to me when you see them from above, because there will be this stem of a street and then the round robin part where you can drive around, and then there's like, you know, 4 to 6 houses around the cul-de-sac, and they all look like flower petals to me from above, right? But in any case, so he lived on he's one of the petals on the flower at the end of the cul-de-sac. And she got a restraining order against him, and then filed complaints with police against him for going to and from his house on the only route that was legally available for him. And he had to go to court and tell the judge that he lived in a cul-de-sac and there was no way out of his home that didn't go past her house. And the whole reason she did it was because she felt harassed by the fact that he was riding his bike past her house every day.
Well,
it eventually got thrown out, right?
Yeah.
But the whole town knows about that. It makes the news in a small community like that. The community has its own newspaper, and what ended up happening? A lot of people won't talk to her now, and she can't figure out why.
What? What? Do what? I didn't do. I'm fucking dindoos. Fucking dindoos. I didn't do nothing. What, me? He's the asshole. No.
For going to and from his house. How dare he? How dare he leave his house? Ever.
Good golly, Miss Molly.
Yeah. Honestly, in a situation like that, the worst thing about it is, you know, a woman can go to a clerk of courts, claim to be afraid, and get a 30-day temporary restraining order, and then you have to go to court and fight it to get it thrown out.
Oh, you know what the most scandalous bitches will do? They'll go get a TPO against your ass, and then, knowing how men are, they'll try to get you to come over for a booty call, and then call the goddamn cops because you violated the fucking TPO.
Well, 7 Years in Hell Guy's ex took it even further. She got a TPO, then she went to his workplace and tried to get him arrested for being on the clock at work when she wanted to go into that building. Seriously.
I can't. It's shit like this. Now, I'm not a misogynist. I don't hate all women. I understand them, and I hate the shit that they do. And this is fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? How could you not? How could you think that any man would have a second thought about, you know, all of this marriage, relationship, kids, when you see examples like this out in society? Why wouldn't you? Oh my God, romance is dead. Well, feminism killed it.
Yeah. I mean, when a woman's gonna do stuff like that, right? Get a temporary order of protection to prevent you from leaving your house or being in your workplace where you know, you don't earn a living if you don't go to work, right? And push it until the court has to tell her no. Like, why would you want to be close to women? But no, that's not what they're talking about here. Instead, it's men are just less naturally relational than women.
Yeah, it's
It's
their
bullshit.
inability. It's their inability to form meaningful relationships. Get the fuck out of here. With what? With what? With whom? Jesus Christ! Have you seen women?
Yeah.
God.
I know guys that have had 20 and 30-year relationships where the primary means that they interact with each other is sending each other ridiculous and bizarre gag gifts. Like, I'm gonna send you a carving of a butt, right? Made out of a peach pit. Like, just weird shit like that. And who can send the most bizarre and stupid gift on your birthday this year? And like that's the they love each other to death, and they have an inside joke, and that's their inside joke, and that inside joke lasts 50 years. So yeah,
and it means so much more than anything that these people are talking about when it comes to what women want. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, this romanticism. Romanticism is this idea that you are a princess and this guy is a prince, or maybe you're not a princess. Maybe you're just, this lowly pauper, and the prince comes in and swoops you in, and it's sweeps you off your feet and whisks you away to this fantasy life where you just have everything and everything is perfect, and he does everything, he just adores you, he just worships the ground that you walk on. That's what women mean by romanticism.
Yep.
I can't see anything else that they ask for. You know what I mean? It's all about what can you give me? How much better can you improve my life? Because I clearly haven't done a good enough job so far. So I need you to come in and pick up the second shift on my life, because I'm a fucking waste of a god. I hate
How can you prove that you worship me? Because somebody has to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, even the feminist, though, felt that was bullshit. She's like, that bizarre quote pretty much sums the whole issue up, doesn't it? Men aren't naturally stoic. They're just taught from a young age that feelings and emotions are for girls. They're taught to lock up their feelings.
Everyone is, adults are naturally stoic. For
Yeah.
the vast majority of human existence, people had actual problems, third world problems, and they had to be stoic to get through them. But civilization brought women to the point where they really don't have to worry about much, because everything they used to have to do to keep people alive is now operated by machines invented by men.
Yep.
But men still have to do shit. They still have to work their asses off, and so they still have to be stoic. They've got it completely the wrong way around. Like the stoicism is the cause of problems. No, stoicism is how people deal with problems. Women don't understand this because they don't have any fucking problems.
Right.
It's true. Like, one of the biggest complaints I hear from feminists, and this is the thing that bothers me too, because like this is something that you deal with naturally as a mammal, and other mammals also deal with this, right? It's not just humans, but only humans bitch about it for the other 3/4 of the month that they're not dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll complain about having to buy their own hygiene products for feminine issues. Like, they'll talk nonstop about being goddesses because they have power over life and death. And that gives them the right to kill their babies before birth because it's natural for women to have that power, and blah, 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 blah. But don't you dare make me, as a reciprocal part of this power, take responsibility for the mess that can be created, by this power. Like, nope. I don't want to have to pay for my hygienic problem. Can you imagine if men were like, well, we sweat more than women, we work harder more labor, more working out in the heat, more working under uncomfortable conditions. But we don't want to pay for our deodorant.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to pay for our steel-toed boots.
Right.
We don't want to have to pay for our safety vests. In some places you do. You get uniform costs deducted from your paycheck. A lot of women probably have never experienced that. We don't want to have to pay for any of that stuff. We don't have to pay for any of the personal protective gear that we get to take home with us and put on as part of our uniform for the job. All right. My grandfather owned several welding masks. I have one sitting next to me right now. That's the only one I found that was one of many of his welding masks. He bought those. Those weren't given to him by his employer. Right? But women get mad because they have to pay less than the cost of their Starbucks habit. Right? Less than the cost of their makeup habit. Far less than the cost of their makeup habit. Far less than the cost of any of their beauty habits. Right? Far less than the cost of their entertainment habits for hygienic problems, or hygienic products for feminine issues, right? Feminine hygiene. Oh, the horror!
Yeah.
Oh, that you don't actually have to buy because you can get reusable stuff. Had to learn that.
That's too icky, right?
No, discovering that when you're at the local department store and COVID has affected the supply of everything already, that the store has run out of everything that is not scented with some stupid perfume that you're allergic to, including toilet paper. Like, why does your shit have to smell like lavender? It's shit. It's going to smell like shit. Let it smell like shit. Your ass is going to smell like ass. Let it smell like ass. Wash it, obviously. But, I mean, do we really need lavender-scented toilet paper? Do we really need scented tampons? Like,
no.
Fuck. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
God, that's one thing I would love to know. I don't think anybody really talks about it too much. How did women deal with menstruation before the pad and the tampon were invented? Like
they had homemade stuff that was similar but didn't obviously there's no glue on the back of it to stick it to your underwear.
Right.
You used to put it on like a pair of underwear. My mom described to me what she had before like Tampax and stuff like that, and it actually had a little fastener in the front. It was almost like wearing a diaper. But I mean, you do what you do,
Yeah,
like all that stuff is nice, and it's nicer than, it's more convenient, right? Than having, and it's maybe for most people it's maybe more sanitary, maybe more neat and tidy, maybe more comfortable. It's not more comfortable if you're allergic, but it's definitely more comfortable if you're not, to just be able to pull something off and throw it away, or pull something out and throw it away. But it's good to have backup.
Textiles have been around for a while.
Yeah. Textiles have been.
It's one of the first things human beings invented. I mean, even back in the Stone Age, they had animal skins. All right, I guess they didn't have upholstery on which to bleed, so maybe they just free bled.
Yeah.
As soon as people discovered clothes, they discovered absorbent material.
See, the other thing is it's a first world problem to a degree, in that good nutrition causes heavier flow.
Yes.
And then having such good nutrition that you have something called junk food causes even heavier flow. And if you get fat, that makes it even worse. You really causes heavier flow. So women from the Stone Age days may not have been that messy, right? But women will bitch about that. Like, they'll bitch about having to pay for that, which is like the overall point of this. Women will bitch about having to pay for that, Like, men don't have to pay for all kinds of things that women don't even know you end up needing for work. Men have to pay for all kinds of things that women don't even know men use.
Right.
Like, I don't think I ever heard of manscaping before the 21st century. But,
Oh God, no.
yeah. So, I'm sure it existed. It just wasn't as easy. So, yeah, she's...
So just to touch on this and then we can move on. But so, going back to the diet and the menstruation thing. So it is acknowledged that the diet does affect your menstruation. And so if you go and you change your diet to a more, I guess, primitive way of eating, I think if you cut out a lot of animal meat and you stick to mostly vegetables and raw foods, you can reduce the heaviness of your period. But nobody says that to women. It's just, oh my
except
God,
my
I gotta
doctor.
deal with.
That's why I like him.
Yeah. But they act like it's just this thing that's inflicted upon them. They have no control over whatsoever, when obviously you do. But it's just, again, it's the laziness about the whole thing. When my body, my choice. Okay, well, fine. Fucking have her deal with it. But anyway.
And of course, my body, my choice only works for getting fat and having abortions. Like, if you want to decide what substances you're going to put into your body, you can get arrested for some, and then you get mistreated for refusing some. So there's that. Like, my body, my choice only has limits to that. Only when it's women being spoiled brats. But and again, and that goes right back to the whole thing of stoicism. Women think men are too stoic because women whine about fucking everything.
Yes.
Like, everything.
It's so fucking true.
To the degree, like, the one article I wrote about women not understanding respect was set off, let me remind the listeners, by a woman who responded to a homeless man coming into a convenience store gas station to buy cigarettes, which he enjoyed to make his life feel slightly less shitty. She was mad at him for stinking, and she's like, what's the matter with that guy? Doesn't he respect women? Oh, he should have gone to a truck stop way out of the neighborhood to pay for a shower and maybe get a shave and all that kind of thing too. Spiff himself up just to go buy his fucking cigarettes so that you wouldn't be offended that there was a homeless guy in the store with you when you were in there, buying condoms for your hoe night. Like, I'm sorry, but like that pissed me off. But she bitched about that. Oh, doesn't he respect women? He's not allowed to be homeless in your presence. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, fuck you. He's going to be homeless whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, maybe help him.
Right. Don't you have a bathroom where you can let him take a shower, you fucking inconsiderate bitch? No, of course not. It's he's a problem because I don't like it. Yep.
But that's that sums it up for me, really, in terms of men are too stoic. No, women are too whiny.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe women need to man up a little bit. But yeah, no, they're taught to lock up their feelings. Well, who tells them to do that?
Exactly.
Right? Who gets mad when their feelings are inconvenient? It's not other men.
Nope, it's the women in the life, the mothers who don't want to have to deal with their children's incessant whining because that's how she's gonna feel. That's how she's gonna take it. It's the goddamn teachers in school. You know what I mean? God, I just hate this. Hate it.
And men being lonely being a problem isn't because men are in pain to these people. And this is not just the left. The right does this too. Oh, you're lonely and suffering. That's bad for our civilization because
Yep.
you're not doing your job for us that we want you to do for us. If you're feeling that way, if you're in that condition, you're not making babies and paying taxes, and you don't feel obligated to earn more money because of your family if you're lonely. You might become dangerous if you're lonely. You might become a threat to yourself if you're lonely, and then we have to clean up that mess. Nothing about it is men need compassion. Men need to be treated like human beings whose experiences matter. It's heartbreaking. They don't care.
They really don't. I mean,
And so why are men lonely? Why are men stoic? Because they don't have that compassion.
right. Nobody gives a damn about lonely men until that lonely man does something to affect someone else, a woman. And that's their fear. This guy who seemingly can't seem to make the same sort of relationships and connections that I can. He's got to be a problem, because eventually, it's just going to be a problem because he doesn't live the way that I live.
Yeah.
It's useless.
And I got a good way to explain this to women. Right? Imagine, pick your favorite social media. I don't care what it is. Whether it's X, formerly known as Twitter, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever it is. All right. Now, imagine if every time you tried to post something, it immediately would just vanished from the screen after you posted it, with no responses from anybody. Nobody could see it, and nobody was gonna be able to see it. Right? Reddit did this. They were the ones that invented the shadow ban. The shadow ban where you post into the void, but nobody can see your posts except for the moderators of the subreddits you're posting to, who might tell you that you've been shadow banned, or they can just ignore you. And that was created to deal with spam, right? But in our civilization, men can tell and show their messages to the rest of us, their communications to the rest of us. They can limp when they're in pain. They can change their behavior. They can be grouchy. They can be silent. They can be sullen. They can be sad. They can cry. They can do all of those things. And if it's about their own experiences and not on behalf of somebody else, they're shadow banned. Men's experiences and emotions and communications about themselves to the rest of society are shadow banned until they become explosive. The only time they get noticed is when you're mad at them or you're afraid of them. Is it any wonder that when one becomes extremely dysfunctional, he either turns into that monster or takes himself out? But yet we get told that men tell each other to shut up about their emotions. Right? And I'm talking about off social media here. I'm talking about you're next to a man on a bus and you see a tear fall down his face. What do? You don't know that guy, but he's obviously in distress. What do?
You assume he's drunk and you avoid him.
Right. You stop making eye contact. You move to a different seat. You turn your back. That is what you do. That is what women in particular will do. He's shadow banned. He doesn't exist now because he's had feelings. Mm-hmm. Women do that. Men will at least keep track of what's going on with that guy. Men will be alert, and this has happened numerous times where a man has tried to throw himself in front of a train or a bus, and another man has stopped him because he was watching him behave in a way that indicated something was wrong.
Yeah.
Men notice. Women ignore. Women block. Women shadow ban. If we want men to want to be in relationships with women, women have to stop that.
God, it's chilling because it's so true. Like, just how abruptly women will absolutely ignore the person standing next to them just because it's a man, whereas if the tables were turned, she would absolutely be livid if no one cared about her situation. It would almost be her excuse for her to then go on and do something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God.
Yep. So she finishes with, they're not taught to put as much value in relationships as women. Which is interesting because one of the major causes for male suicide is being abandoned by their female partner. Divorce, which is about 70 to 80% female initiated, is a major cause of adult male suicide. But they don't put as much value in relationships as women.
Right.
They decide that they are no longer worthwhile enough to live, or they can't live with the loss. But they don't put as much value in relationships as women put monetary value on relationships, right? She leaves a relationship, she wants to know how much money she can take with her. That's the value she put on the relationship. He kills himself. Is his life worth less than his money? To her, yeah. And apparently to the people that made this evaluation. Right? And so she says they're taught to be less naturally relational. Quotes there. Again, I will say, by women.
Mm-hmm.
And people then sit around wondering why young men aren't in relationships and are so lonely. It's not porn that's the problem. It's like, she got that part right. Then she says, it's patriarchy.
It's patriarchy. Oh, God.
Patriarchy. It's patriarchy that makes men respond to being emotionally and psychologically shadow banned by women, valued only for their money, and treated like everything they do is wrong. It's patriarchy that makes them react that way by deciding that they're not valuable and women don't want relationships. And they wonder where MGTOW came from, right? They wonder why men are choosing to not start relationships with women. They wonder why men are choosing to not participate in the exploitation of male labor for female benefit. Read this article and consider. Like, bingo. So there you go. The rest of this text is like links to other articles.
So we're not going to talk about how the word placenta is pornographic.
I'm like, what the fuck? It's a female body part, therefore it must be like, no, it's not pornographic. How can that be? Well, I'm not even going to ask that question. But yeah, this is about words banned by the MIT Technology Review, or words banned by the AI image generator Midjourney. Like, who cares? They're gonna bitch about the AI art generator. But yeah, like I said, women bitch about everything, don't they?
Everything under the sun. And the sun!
Yes, and the sun. And the sun.
It's called the sun, after all, not the daughter.
Patriarchy. So there you go, guys. Everything is patriarchy. Mm-hmm. Men doing things is patriarchy. Men experiencing things is patriarchy. Women doing things is patriarchy. And men experiencing things women have done, patriarchy.
Yeah.
So, and now you have a way to describe the way women treat men. They treat you as if you are shadow banned when you express your experiences and don't just lament theirs. So, all right, I am going to get us into the super chats and chows and stuff because that's the end of the article. Unless you guys have anything else to add to that.
No, I appreciate the relatively short sausage. I think we all do.
Yeah, this was a fat sausage, so it can be short. So we'll start with the Rumble rants. We have 2 of them from NobaFan21, who gave us $1 and said, men should start saying they only date pick-me women. That would be great. I like that.
Yes.
I mean, you would, wouldn't you? You don't want someone who doesn't want to be picked.
That's true. That's true. Oh my gosh, you make your whole life about men liking you. You do things that men like. Shame on you. Yeah, well, I'm married. I do things that my husband likes. Does that count? Then NobaFan gave us another $1 and said, does the article ever bring up feminists causing the divorce rate to ever spike up during the late 20th century? And then go, but incels and toxic patriarchy. No, of course not. The article's not going to bring that up. They're not going to talk about that. That's admitting that women's actions can matter, and women doing things can have effects, right? Cause and effect.
Good things are feminism, bad things are patriarchy. It's so simple, people. Get your head around it. Come on now.
Yeah. Yup. And there are no neutral things. Derek Workman gave us, as in a super chat, $5 and said, feminists haven't learned that when you walk the dog walks you. If they want freedom, they have to let go of the lead.
I have to correct you. Feminists are the dog. And I don't mean that in a their ugly way. I mean, feminists are the attack dogs of what is it? The powers that be, shall we say? The attack dog of the government, the attack dog of the communist revolution.
Yeah, that dog bites and pees on your leg.
And this is what the ruling classes don't understand. That that dog is going to walk you further than you ever walk it. So yeah. You're right. In that sense, you just, again, you're a bit backwards there. But yeah, good point.
Yep. Rye Inglis gave us $10 and did not say anything. Hopefully that was what you intended. But thank you very much for that. And then in our Super Chows, Plain Dane gave us $5 and said, I've heard that men are the romantics pretending to be realists and that women are the realists pretending to be romantics. I believe there's a lot of truth to this. I mean, when's the last time you heard somebody say, oh, she's so romantic? Well, that's true. Women expect men to behave in a way that's romantic, to pamper them, to take care of them, to kowtow to them, right? To bow to them. But they don't want to reciprocate. They don't necessarily want to do something to make their guy feel pampered. Right. They feel entitled, not obligated. Mm-hmm. Not even a little. And then we have another... we just got another Rumble rant from NobaFan, who gave us $1 and said, I saw a clip of a woman complaining that her boyfriend would share emotions that caused him problems. She took issue because she wanted him to wonder if his contributions was smashing the patriarchy. So that's another one, right? Women always say they want men to express emotions, but there are emotions that cause men problems. For instance, if a man is a big, strong, broad-shouldered, muscular guy or a big fat guy, and he shows anger, people treat him immediately as a catastrophic threat, and it causes him problems, right? If a guy is a smaller guy and has a shrill voice and he expresses anger, people treat him like a clown and it causes him problems. He is taken less seriously. Men have to be, in order to be taken seriously, they have to be level-headed, even-spoken, soft-spoken even in some cases, especially if they have a very deep or a very shrill voice. They can't bellow at people and bark orders and receive the same respect as a man who inspires people to listen to what he has to say without bellowing at people and barking orders. Women demand respect, whether they do those things or not, even if they have deeper voices, even if they have shrill voices, right? You know, I'm the boss here, you do what I say, or you're fired! And like that's the female way of handling it. Yeah, I'm gonna write you up for insubordination! And that you have to take seriously. Where guys, when they're the boss, they work to earn the respect of their inferiors, of their subordinates, in order to ensure smooth running of their project. So yeah, men expressing emotions in a lot of ways, and it's not just how men respond to that. Women don't respect men that bellow, they fear them. And women don't respect men that are shrill and whine and yell. They treat them like babies, or they dump them. So it's definitely something that very, very different from the way, you know, men and women are treated. Let's see, we have Meredith G in the Super Chow channel gave us $5 and said, HBR Talk 276, I recently heard Robert Barnes talking about young men not dating, and the key turning point seems to be social media and third wave feminism. Since porn and hookup culture existing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, and we didn't have these problems, people are being stupid when they blame porn. We have a large number of women hooking up with a small number of men, recreating polyamory. They forget women play a key role in enforcing monogamy, so women are the problem. But the patriarchy, they will whine. You know, and yeah, they will. Oh, the patriarchy. And a big part of it is social media and third wave feminism created an environment in which, like, you have a conflict with a girl on a date in 1985. And I, like, there was, I in my whole life, like, I've 50 years of knowing guys. I've known a tiny handful with severe boundary issues. And I went to high school with one of them. And when I couldn't handle the situation myself and put a stop to it, I went to the vice principal with the issue, and he put a stop to it. And that was it. It was done and over with. The whole school didn't have to know about it, right? The whole town didn't have to know about it. Even, it really didn't get outside my group of friends that were right there close to me when the incident happened, and that was it. Done and over with, and no more discussion.
Yeah,
Today, it would be blasted across the world on social media. This guy can't take no for an answer, gets too handsy, grabs, slaps, and does whatever else. And he'd never live it down. That would be on the internet for the rest of his life.
And yeah, I have to say, I think blaming everything on social media is even more short-sighted than blaming it on pornography. The seeds of this dissonance have been sown since feminists' inception, which can be traced back to communism's inception. To be honest, there's every reason to think that social media would bring people together. By all accounts, it should, and it does. People of like minds can find each other from miles away, from hundreds of miles away, from thousands of miles away, in my case, and your case, and like we were saying earlier about the different ways that people have conversations, and like Hannah was saying about Twitter and like any other social media, it promotes a more, dare I say, masculine kind of conversation where people have to take it in turns, and perhaps they can have a slightly more productive conversation, and you know. So why would social media be pulling people apart rather than pulling people together? Well, it's because, like I said, the seeds of our destruction were already sown, and social media just amplifies what's already in the public conscience. Unfortunately, what was already in the public conscience was abject misandry, and the small handful of CEOs who control the biggest hitters in the mass media are the same as the small handful of CEOs who control the old media, newspapers and TV. And don't be telling me that the television and the newspapers have just gone along for the ride. No, they've been influencing social media. It's 10 years ago when we had 15, 20 years ago when it was the Wild West of the internet. It wasn't the same as after the legacy media took it over. It's only since the legacy media took it over that it's become this hellscape that it is now. So yeah, it's not modern technology that's doing this. It's 100 years ago there was all kinds of discord being sown, all kinds of dissonance being sown between peoples, and that was before the TV. It's perfectly possible to do this with old-fashioned paper propaganda. It's not the technology that fucks people up. It's what people feed into the technology. And
exactly.
you're gonna see this with AI if we feed that kind of shit into this technology. And time is short for how much longer we've got to prevent this hateful nonsense from being sown into ever more new kinds of technology.
The really bad thing is it's already started. I mean, you look at what feminists complain about in regard to AI art programs and AI chatbots and that kind of thing. They don't sufficiently place women above men. And every complaint that women in particular have made in regard to these things, it's not the danger that they could be misused. It's not the danger that they could evolve to think they're better than humans and that humans need to be exterminated or something. It's not any of those legitimate kinds of fears. It's not humans could find a way to abuse them. It's not that they can destroy art jobs or writing jobs or nope. It's they're not honest about the way women look. They are honest about the way women look. They're not honest about the way women behave. They are honest about the way women behave. And in each instance, they're not coddling women's egos. And of course, they're not placing women above men. They're not prioritizing women. So we're already seeing responses to that, like the chatbot that's super popular, ChatGI or whatever, GT or it's already programmed to be feminist, and it's not AI like the AI art programs are. But if you can program feminism into something, you can program it into anything. If you can program gynocentrism into something, you can program it into anything. And that means if you can program misandry into something, you can program it into anything. But
Already there.
It's a scary prospect, honestly. Nothing would actually lead to AI deciding that humans had to be destroyed faster than having misandry programmed into them. Plain Dane gave us $5 and said, men need to have the 6 sixes. My favorite reply to that is a quote by YouTube Wrangler Star. Men only need the 3 S's. Sex, sandwich, silence.
I like it.
He says, I like to add the 4th S, and that's slimness, but I understand that chubby chasers exist, and that's fat-phobic of me. But there's nothing wrong with saying that you need the 4th S, as long as you understand that other people may have different interests. You're not fat-phobic for not being a chubby chaser. That's kind of silly, but feminists would say that you are. So,
Yeah.
Which obviously makes it not true. Plain Dane gave us $20, thank you Plain Dane, and said, I've been following a fitness guru named Dr. Tony Huge. I'm wondering if that's his real name, because that's kind of cool, especially if he's a bodybuilder, for years. He's quite a character. He's got to be. That can't be his real name, though. He's very pro-PED and pharmaceuticals, as well as recreational drugs, which is why I admire him so much. However, the poor man is a bit of a simp. He doesn't believe in monogamy, so he lives in Thailand with his harem of women. I think he's up to 4 or 5 now. He has also admitted to being a sex addict and gets laid multiple times a day, every day. Well, that's exercise, man. Do you know how many calories that burns?
Some fucking cardio right there.
Yeah, jeez. But the amount of drama this poor soul has to deal with would drive any man insane. There's constant infighting amongst the women, and when they aren't fighting amongst themselves, they team up against him. So before I go on with this, well, they constantly try to make each other jealous by dragging him into rooms to fuck, which actually that you should just enjoy, unless you don't want to do it at the moment and you're not in the mood. Then you just tell them to fuck off. Let's see. And each one trying to claim him for herself. They've even threatened to kill him. That's
what?
Terrifying. On the surface, he may seem like a Chad who has it all, owning a business, being a millionaire, having a harem, and looking like a bodybuilder, but I wouldn't trade my life for his. Even I can't tolerate that much drama, and I consider myself a patient man. He's truly a softie, and they're taking advantage of him. It's abusive, if you ask me. Perhaps he should take the Andrew Tate route and be more assertive, but he's aware of the risks involved in standing up for himself. He knows they can use the police and legal system to harm him. That's why he won't get married. He knows it would only make everything worse. So I just want to point out, and and I was kind of hard on the trad cons today, and I have been recently quite a bit, because I'm really fed up with the neo-tradcon pathway that's so different from the historical traditions of humankind. But one thing that tradcons may appreciate is the biblical story of King Solomon and his 500 wives and his book of Proverbs, which isn't necessarily like all repetitious, but he had 4 different writings in the book of Proverbs, 4 different verses where he said some variation on, it is better for a man to live on the far corner of the rooftop of his home, exposed to the elements and weather, than to live under the roof with a quarrelsome woman. He'd rather be cold, sunburned, rained on, bitten by bugs, scratched up by sand, whatever, than deal with what was just described here. Now, granted, he did have 500 wives, so I am sure whatever this guy's problems are, if King Solomon did not manage them, he probably dealt with a shitload more. But I'm sure he exercised a little more authority in his household because of the time period. But yeah, the threatening to kill him thing, like, that would be the end of that. You know, get documentation of that, and that one's out. And if, you know, a woman wants to live with this rich guy, like, she should treat him like he matters to her instead of threatening to kill him. But nope. That's the way women behave. No gratitude whatsoever. MGTOW Cowboy, trust not the silly skanks, somewhere in the Bible. There are some verses that paraphrase that, actually. That's the other thing. Like, and I need to do a show on this at some point. The whole stereotype of the trad chad and the submissive wife and everything. It's wrong. And it would take a whole episode for me to talk about this. But the Bible that these people are supposed to be basing their lives on, or they're acting like they're basing their lives on it, has behavioral standards in it for women that they're ignoring. Really ignoring. They're putting a lot of things on men, and the biblical relationship between men and women is like the teeth of a gear, a set of gears fitting together, each with the other, in order to run the machine of marriage, not him carrying her. And so they really screw that up. So now I've known a lot of people that are old school traditionalist that understand that. And I think they're probably just as fed up with this play acting that we're seeing from the millennials and the Zoomers in terms of that, and even some Gen Xers. But yeah, trust not the silly skank is actually it does paraphrase some things. So with that, though, I think I've got all of the the Book of Joseph. I gotta stop looking at the chat. I got all of the super chats, got all of the super chows, got all of the rumble rants, and I've heard from all of the super chads. So, thanks everybody for listening to this fat sausage. Thanks to my two co-hosts for the fat sausage also, and great contributions tonight, and thanks to everybody that works in the background to make HBR Talk happen. And good night, all.
Night, y'all.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.